Presentation then. I'm going to do a part on the screen, so am I able to share my screen? Yep.
You should be able to.
Let's see, let me find where I'm at. This one.
There you are.
Okay. Let me move my things around. Okay, so I just have, so like Charlie was saying, I'm working on a couple Freemo modules, and I'm having lots of fun on that. And one thing that was brought up in our board meeting, one of the benefits of the pizza box is it's a smaller investment. Sometimes you have the deadlines, especially if you're meeting every month. You have goals you're trying to achieve by a certain time. It's not overwhelming. It's a smaller scale, not railroad scale, but a smaller footprint. And you can see your progress as you're going along. Many times as we're working on our layouts, it can be months or years before we see much progress if it's of any size. But this, I've seen lots of progress pretty quickly. Since I build my own track, it takes a lot longer to get up to the scenery stage. And even in this, I had someone help me build the base of the module. I'm good at woodworking, but I knew that would add more time to my project. So sharing skills and sharing what we do with each other is helpful. So my part of the clinic is about track laying and simple steps. We'll go in the other room where I'm working on this module, but this is just showing that I've got the track down, and I ballast in stages, a little bit at a time. So in this picture, you can see I've done most of the straight areas, and then started to, then I come back and do some of the turnouts. Let's see, can you see where my cursor is?
Yeah.
Okay, so back in here is what I'm actually working on currently. This part is a time saver. And so it functions, so here's the main line right here going through the center. And when we get together with all the Freemo modules, this is the main line. Trains will just drive right through, and I'll have a 15-foot train I can drive, and it'll go around the layout. But if someone wants to drop off some cars, then we can switch them around, or I'll have cars here already. And this is the time saver configuration, and someone can play the game here. On this side is a souped up Inglenook. So it's a dual gauge, and it will have like 4 different versions you can play: beginner, intermediate, and advanced, and super advanced. And maybe someday I'll have a clinic or a presentation about that. But in the meantime, what I've done here is I played the time saver game, and I actually found out that I need 2 more inches right here. And so in a bit, I'll show, it can be played as is, but to do the advanced level of the time saver, I really need 2.5 inches added on for a specific reason, and I can show you that later. I'm just going to go into and show you some of these pictures on ballasting. So I ballasted up to this point, and then I needed to add on. This is where the 2 modules connect. So I had some blue tape, for obvious reasons. I'm going to point out here how you can see there's a couple different variations in the track. I'll get to that. Let me skip around on some of these pictures.
Did you hand blade this track?
Say that again?
Is this all hand blade?
No. Only the turnouts are hand laid. The straight sections are microengineering code 83 flex track. Yeah. And so here, I keep my paints upside down so that it creates a seal. So that's why they're upside down. But you can see white, burnt umber, and burnt sienna. I have found that this burnt umber, well, any burnt umber, but this is the brand I had. This burnt umber matches exactly satin espresso Rust-Oleum. So this spray paint, I take my flex track and even the hand laid turnouts I've made and spray them with this. That is nearly identical to the color that the microengineering rail is, or the ties are. And so then what I do is I take those three paints, mix them up, and get a couple different shades. Now this is a top of a lid from a buttered thing, and trying to think the other names. Other containers that you get food in are perfect because this plastic, once that dries, you can just peel it up and it's easy to clean up. So I take those different shades and randomly, you can see here, randomly apply the different shades to that spray painted track. The spray paint takes off the plastic shine, then adding these other colors gives it the more natural weathered look. And it's pretty subtle after you have the ballast in, but you can see there's a tie there. These are the different color painted ones. So at this point, like in this section, I've got all the rest of this done to this level. What I still have left to do is add oil marks, stains going down from the trains running the tracks. I'm going to add in between, not the main area, but over here, I'm going to add some water, like standing water. I'm also going to add some weeds, and the main should be pretty well kept, but over here in the sidings, more vegetation. But I haven't got to that point yet because I'm still working on the other track work. Let's see, the other pictures I have in here.
Can you show that spray paint again? I'm going to take a picture of it.
Yep.
Got it.
Okay. This picture, oh, typically we don't want that to happen, right? But in this picture,
yeah,
you can see a little bit of that happening. So in going back, I thought, well, I could have had a Y here instead of a straight. It's nice to be able to have a little bit of space so that your fingers can get in this manual turnout. And then I wanted it spaced further from the main. So I do have a little bit of a jog. And that jog's totally fine because at least it's not that. But even that, so you can see here after I've got the ballast down, it's really soaked. Let's go down here. This is showing some of my track planning ideas where I get the templates out and lay things out, figure out how I want them. I knew I wanted to have, I was originally thinking narrow gauge, but I switched over to dual gauge. So some track is narrow, some is dual. I had this one turnout from 5-6 years ago. I don't know why it never got used. And so I made sure that I used it for this area. And then I knew I needed the siding a certain length. So I have the tape measure here to figure out how things were going to work out. And things were a little tight. Even though this section was 4 feet, I needed to make it go a little longer. And so one idea was I could shorten this turnout. I didn't need all that extra space in there. Also, maybe curving them a little bit. I liked this track plan of this angle nook, but I wasn't able to get it angled quite the same way. This is not mine. I think this is an O scale one where this is a really nice level of detail. Mine, I probably won't get to that level. In O scale, it's easier. But like I said earlier, I'm going to put some weeds in and I'm going to add some other coloration. Right now, it's just the gray. So this plan is coming a little better. I have a three-way switch here, and I push this one out to over here. And then I figured, well, maybe while I'm at it, the game doesn't have any escape tracks, but there's a reason why I need one. I'm going to have some track on the other side, which is in this picture. This isn't part of the Ingle Nook, it's the other end of things. And I needed a way to get the engine on the other side of the trains to be able to push into these sidings. And so I decided, well, I can add that runaround track back here. Now, in here, it's on the dual gauge and dual gauge. I ended up making it going from the dual to the narrow because I can use the narrow gauge train. I'm going to have a dedicated engine down there. There's another picture of placing that in. Then instead of using the full profile, I wanted this lower, like yard tracks. And so this is only an 1/8 inch instead of the 1/4 inch. And so I just got this on Amazon. I got a roll of cork that I cut down to size. And there's the prep. Now I'm going to show you how I apply this area, but I applied the cork differently. I used the wood glue and this scraper, and it looks like it's drying already, but by scraping that around and moving it around, I got some pretty good coverage. And the wood glue tends to dry pretty quick, so that's one reason I wanted to put it down fast and be able to scrape it. Then I used the roller to press the cork down pretty hard. All those magazines you save, that was a good reason to save them. Nice flat surface to have for weights. And some more train books. Those train books could be heavy. That's a good thing in this case. So here's that section. And I'll show you, I've got the track laid. So those are all the pictures. I'm going to turn on my phone now, if this works. There it is. Can I do this? Just a minute. Okay, we can stop the screen sharing. There we go. Do you have to let me in, Mike, or do I get in?
You should be able to get in.
Okay. Okay, I'm in on my phone. Okay, now we're going to the other room. Can you still hear me?
Yep. Barely. I think your phone's on mute, Jim.
How about now?
Better.
Okay. So let's do. Okay, here's where we were just looking at. And that one section where I just laid the cork. And see, there's the special turnout and the rest of that track. But what I want to focus on is here's the time saver. And I need to add a couple inches right there. So I'm getting feedback because I have my laptop still on. So hold on one second.
We're not hearing anything, Jim.
Oh, you're not? Okay, so I'll just leave it. Okay, camera. Are you able to see this spot?
Yes.
Okay. One second. Okay. Here's some track that I pulled up from something else I had laid. And you can see when I put down the caulk, it was pretty clumpy and it kind of squoze through the ties a little bit. And it just wasn't very good. And to Charlie's point earlier about, making multiple layouts, you learn from every experience, and I learned from that. I thought was doing good. This way, I think's better. So I'm not saying this is the only way or the best way, but this way does work for me. So I'm just going to share it with you. Okay, so right here, I'm going to add this little piece of track. Let me turn on, plug in my soldering iron. Okay. And it seems kind of funny doing a little clinic on just that much track, but the technique is still the same no matter how much you're laying down. That area is pretty clean. I've got a little piece of this foam here. This was actually left over from laying the rest of the track, and it happened to be the exact perfect amount that I need. So I'm going to take this and use that little piece.
liquid nails, heavy duty, construction adhesive. Just make sure it says that it works with foam. I know there's several different versions. I'm going to take the pencil here. You barely see that mark. Okay, so I know I need to glue up this area. Okay. You may think, well, that's not very much, but it's enough. That's all. So I took a putty knife and very thin layer. On a larger layout or a larger area, when I put it down, I use one of these foam rollers. And that way I could go along the entire area and make sure it was pushed down and had good adhesion the entire way. That's actually a paint roller, just one of those mini ones. In that picture was another one, I don't have that right here, that's for that purpose of, I forgot the official name, but now normally I would let this dry overnight. You know, I'd do a big area all at once. But I'm going to keep going. I'm going to move on to the track. Now, let's see, sorry if I mumble a little bit. There's a little tiny space there, but I have enough that I can slide a rail joiner underneath. But I didn't prep these. Normally, I like to dress the ends of the rail. So especially on this rail, you can see how, I don't know if you how well you can see it. It's dark on top. This I've spray painted this section, but I think I was holding it on this end because there's no paint on those last two ties. That really doesn't matter because we're going to touch it up anyway. And I'm going to leave that last tie. I'm just going to cut this one so it's the same length. So I'm going to put either some gravel or a bumper or something at the end because this is the end of the track for the time saver. But what you have to make sure is that it's clean on the bottom because I am going to solder these together. With very few exceptions, at least on this module, I've not soldered the joints. Every single piece of rail is soldered with its own feeder going to the bus. But this piece of rail, I'm not going to solder. The main reason is there literally is no reason for locomotive to be on this little 2-inch extension. But if there happens to be, then it's soldered to this rail and it should totally be fine. Okay. The Atlas rail joiners seem huge after looking at these microengineering ones. But what I do like to do, can you see this okay? I don't know.
Yeah, we can see pretty well.
Okay, I can add another light. I have one available if I need to.
Looks pretty good, Jim.
Okay, so there's a little extension here. I clip that off because I don't want that in the way. The other side doesn't have it. I take the little screwdriver and just pop those up just a tiny bit, and that helps to slide them on to the rail.
What code are you using?
This is code 83. The other side is code 70. Partially because of the.
How
You
does
guys
it
hear my?
right?
Did you hear that noise? My son's upstairs yawning. It sounded like a banshee.
This is HO scale?
Yes, HO. Code 83 and code 70 have the same base on the web of the rail. They're just different.
Turned me on to an idea, and that was to use code 80 M scale rail joiners.
Yeah,
That's what I did.
yeah, you can use smaller rail joiners. Sometimes I've even seen people cut these in half so that they're hardly seen. But I look down the rail here and I can't even see where the joints are unless I look closely. Okay, so those slipped on pretty easily, but I forgot a step. I take my flux. Now this is acid-based flux. So I've got a way to clean it up because I can't take this after it's installed. I can't take it to the sink and wash it with soap and hot water. So I use a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. But the next step is, see, I still have some left over on my putty knife. And a little more fell off from the tube. Again, this is very, very thin. You don't want it to squeeze up in between the ties. Okay, that last tie was loose, so I was able to compress it a little bit and get the joiner to slide under it. That's it. I've got some rail that's been down like that for years, but the ballasting stage helps to secure that even more. Another thing I was going to mention was spare battery from your power tools, or like this tool is almost dead. If I were to replace it, hang on to these. They make excellent weights, nice flat surface. And so in normal situations, I would probably let that sit there like that overnight before coming to ballast it. But I'm working on speed mode right now, and I want to get this done. Oh, I forgot I was going to solder that. I'm doing things in different steps.
So you put the flux into the joiner before. That was a good idea.
Yeah. And that just flowed right in. Oh, guess what? We've got a problem.
That side's not in.
It's not in. Yep.
You could see it from the camera.
Now it's in. So, that's one of those, hey, look, even I make mistakes. But guess what? I just fixed my mistake. So we're all good. Yeah, that was totally funny. Okay, so then I just take a little bit of this cleans it up, so you don't have to worry about the acid.
Hey, Jam,
Yes.
you didn't have to pull out a tie when you used that smaller rail joiner, did you?
No. This tie, I was able to just shove down a little bit because it's on foam, and so it just went right under. Now you can see there's a space right there. I have, if I can find it. I have one of these, the piece of strip wood that I spray painted a while back, and I'm gonna actually. So it's super easy. Actually, I think I had thought there was an extra tie too. Oh yeah, right here. I could have used this. And actually, and I do that a lot. That strip wood I usually save for under the turnouts where they need to be longer. But this one, I should have used that. I trim off with a knife the extra detail that sticks up. And so I should have used this one, but it's all right. Okay. I'm not gonna, sometimes I'll take my real cleaner off. I think I have it right here. I have the mess I have on here. I also have another table next to me with all the tools and supplies. So let's see. Okay, I think we're good there. So now I'm just going to ballast this little section. And I've been using the fine gray. I pour from the bag into here so that I can easily use this little spoon to scoop it out. I also have some in this container. That's medium. And I tried it on some areas, and it just looks really big. Maybe that's because I'm used to going from N scale to HO and back and forth. But it just looks like really big gravel. So even though this is HO, I'm using the fine. So I put a little bit in between the rails and then some on the ends. And I use a finger. I know some people use a toothbrush or some other kind of brush. And I tried that, and I even had a foam brush. And nothing beats your finger.
Jim, have you ever used um, tools that they have for doing balancing?
What's funny is just in the MRH that was just, the online one that was just released, he has a thing titled speed ballasting. And it's like that little thing that you put down and the pull across and the gravel comes out.
Yeah.
It seems like that works. Well, I didn't want to pay that much money for that little tiny box to do 8 feet of scenery. And most of it's turnouts. So I don't know that I could, really take care of it anyway.
Yeah, I have one of those that I've used. It's very efficient on long flex track,
Okay.
because you can lay the ballast out in basically seconds. I think you can't use it on a turnout.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. So, yeah. So what's even better to know is we can borrow it from Mike.
Only N scale.
Oh, yeah. Forgot. So I usually do this in 2 passes, and so I try to make as thin layer as I can on the sides. But if it ends up showing things through, I do a second layer later on. Now here's the trick I learned. I don't know how many people do it. I tap the top, and you can see how the ballast is jumping around. It's coming off of the ties and off of the sides of the rail. I've seen where ballast is on the tie, but it's never on the side of the rail because gravity would just make it fall off the rail. Yeah, the spoon's better. And some of them are buried a little bit. That's from where I ballasted before. Oh, but I forgot one of the steps. I'm trying to go too fast. The painting step. But I'm going to skip it for now because this is just at the end. And so what I would do is I would like maybe paint that tie and that tie. There's only, to get the randomness, there's not enough ties for what I need to do. Like there's one there. And when I go and do the final detailing, I could still take this brush and just touch up if it's glaring to me. But I'm not going to actually do the painting right now. Some of that off. Now I can see a little bit in here, so I'm gonna add a little bit more. Now, when you look at prototype pictures, sometimes ties are totally covered, sometimes they're not covered at all. Sometimes they're, there's lots of different within 5 feet of track. I could literally leave that like that, and that would be fine. But what I'm planning on doing is the dirt. I have some dirt that's this color. That's the paint that I've already painted this plywood, and I'm going to add some dirt in here. You can see how I've added ballast in between these tracks. So this
Hey,
is
Jim.
the end of this fur. Yeah.
There's some real ballast right there.
Right where?
If you can see where I'm at, we're out by Faust on the
Oh.
main line.
Oh, okay. Cool.
We're out here
Well,
camping.
I'd say bring some home for me, but it's too big for the snout.
Yeah, but if there's anybody wants some fine dirt, there's a whole bunch out here.
Well, I'd take some. Actually, the other Mike, we've got a lot of mics in our group. The other Mike got this for me. Can you see how fine that is?
Yeah.
In the camera. So that's super fine. And so that's what I'm going to lay down in between the rails and around places. Okay. The other thing you can see is those joiners are pretty tiny. So in some places where I hadn't done any ballasting yet, I took the spray paint and sprayed right on the track to dull some of the things. The other reason to spray paint the rail with the track is you see the side of the rail is now painted. Sometimes people like different colors. Like that's not a real rust color, but it's darker. That takes the shine off and it just makes it look so much better to me. But I can come back in that with that brush and just touch up those joiners, and that will also help make them just disappear completely. Okay, what I do, I've done it several ways. Sometimes I can take this bottle and put in a top that has the tube and the spray, so I could spray this isopropyl directly on there. But what I've liked lately is I just take this dropper and I basically soak this ballast. Sometimes I've seen people just missed it. Soaking helps it to miss the spot. You get it all wet, then when I put the glue in, it just soaks in real nice. So this is a mixture of 50% Elmer's glue and water with a touch of dish soap. The all glue Elmer's. I got the school glue once. You know, I thought I was being clever when we went back to school shopping with the kids, and oh, they need glue. I'll just buy 5 extras of these for me, and it just looks like I'm buying school supplies. But the school glue does not work. It blotted up. It was really weird. But the glue all is perfect. The reason I like putting it in here, sometimes I'll get it in a big container like this one and then transfer it to the smaller one, because once this is empty, I can put half of this in there and then half water. And it's cheaper buying a bigger one. But I do like this container because then I've got that as the dropper. And I just soak that in. Then tomorrow when it's dry, I come back with the track cleaner, clean off the top of that rail. One thing I was going to check, if I can find it amongst my tools. I had it right here. Oh, it's right in front of me. The straight edge. I just want to make sure. Yeah, see, I was moving just a little bit. I was playing with my eyes. That looks good now. Okay. Normally everything was dry before I did the ballast part, but since it wasn't, I am going to put this weight on top of it. And then, because I don't want to get an up curve at the very end of the track. I think that's all I have. I don't know. Does anyone else have any more questions or comments? Are we still on?
Yeah, we're still on.
Oh, I'm going to clean up some of these tools really quick. Like I have found, I've done all kinds of things to keep the end of that fresh. Just jamming this screw back in, that was helpful. And then I only had a little bit of waste where it was hard at the end.
Jim,
Yes.
will you do a short one on ballasting a turnout?
Uh-huh. Oh, will I?
Yes, sometime in the future.
Yeah, I could maybe do that next month because I have. You see, hang on. Wait, are you there? Wait, are you back? Sorry. My wife was eating my keys. Okay. I could actually. What time is it? I've got time. I do have another area. Let me get some tools and take it in the other room. Where is? Oh, this. Found it. Almost everything's right in front of my face. I can't see it because lots of things. Okay, I'm going back in the real train room. There's a turnout there. You want me to ballast that one?
That'd be great.
Okay. I gotta move a couple boxes. The problem is I don't have the tripod for the camera here. Let's see if I can. Hey, that's a roll of duct tape is holding my phone up. Can you still see that?
Good.
Can you see it good?
Yes, it's good.
Okay. Besides being a turnout, this is in scale. So it's a little bit smaller. Or a lot smaller. So I haven't, you can see right here, I haven't installed the throw bar. I'm putting a servo underneath. But there's another thing I was going to mention was this is the Woodland Scenics foam for HO scale. You cut it in half and it's perfect for the in scale width. But also, can you see the height right here? This is the Bachmann track and it's the exact same height for that. So the in scale cork is a little bit lower than this. So that's what I'm going to use. Can you see this line right here? This is the narrow gauge in scale. It will be right here. So this is a code 40 turnout for narrow in scale. And it's basically the same technique. A little bit lighter hand. Now, let's see, right here, the hole for where I put the power down. This one, I will be, let me grab one more tool. I can use this one. Because it is so much smaller, I do use a brush instead of my finger, at least for the turnout. I wanted to get it in there. Now, if you notice, I'm staying away from either side of the throw bar, at least for now. And once this is ballasted and painted and all the good stuff, you won't even know that there's a difference between these rails. It's been a while since I've done the in-scale ballasting. Okay. Okay. And we don't want it in between the rails. You want to be able to close them. And this side, it drops off dramatically from where the foam is, so I'm just going to build that up a little bit with some extra ballast. So it has a better slope. Now it could be, a washed out area. So there's almost always an example of the prototype that you can point to why things are a certain way. And so again, I'm using the brush to push the ballast down in, but also off the top of the ties. I'm going to stop at that point, unless you want me to go further. No, let me look. I don't want the ballast to fall on the floor right now because I don't have that tape. Found some extra tape. Okay. Seems like a lot, but there was a big hole there. You want to make sure the guardrails, the frog definitely don't have any ballast. You can always clean that up after, but it's so much easier to do now. And like I said before, if there's a little bit still on top of the ties, that's fine. Track is often one of those details that people want to hurry through, but it can be a really great detailed part of your layout. But most of your visitors, like we talked earlier about showing off your trains, most of your visitors aren't going to say, hey, what's that piece of ballast doing on the side of the rail? It might bug you, so then you fix it. If it doesn't bug you, just leave it. Okay. The other thing is, I know probably most people, I don't know how many, ballast after they do the scenery. I like to ballast before because, can you see over here? Oh, you still there? My
Yes.
battery's low.
Yes.
I was plugged in earlier, but my battery's low here. So, this, what was I going to say over here? I was pointing. I forgot what I was going to say. Got distracted. Oh, this part. See, it has the cloth down, and it's been that way, and it's totally fine and secure. And that was a very, very, very thin layer of caulk, and it was fine. So the ballast helps though to bond it and hold it tight, but you don't have to. But what I do like is to make sure trains are running really good before I finish off all the rest of this area. If I finish this all off and then ballast and then I have problems running trains, then I got to come back and destroy some things potentially. Plus, it looks nicer. The track looks more finished and it looks nice if you can't get the ballasting right away. So that's one reason I do it that way.
So you got to make sure you like your track plan, though. I had to tear up a whole lot of ballast. That's a pain in the butt.
That's very true. And I have revised this track plan. If you can see here, originally I was going to have the spur go off that way, but now it goes around and comes off on the other side of the loop into the same area, but it's a much better configuration. The curve was going to be way too tight, and I wouldn't have been able to do really what I wanted very well. And
Where'd you get that eyedropper?
the medical supplies, eye dose spoon dropper, 1 teaspoon, 3/4 teaspoon. So probably like in the baby section. Can't remember for sure.
Because it's a nice size.
Yeah, it's a little bit bigger than the one I used to use. Okay, now I bet someone's saying, but I really wanted to know what you were going to do with your throw bar. You didn't put any ballast there. Well, guess what? Do you really need to? It's black underneath. And you probably wouldn't even be able to tell that there's no ballast. But what I will do is probably tomorrow, I'll come back and put like 3 or 4 drops, just a very, very thin layer. But if you go look at the prototype, there's very little ballast around that area because it moves so much. They have the same problem we do, is they need it to move. And if there's lots of rocks in there, it won't be able to move. Now I'm moving this back and forth because you can see how the glue's in there. And on this little tiny switch with that much glue, that'll probably stop it, but it'll work its way. So on this particular switch or turnout, I'm gonna not do that tomorrow. I'm not gonna add it because I still need to add the bar that's gonna go under the layout for the servo motor. But what I will do is I'll come back and wiggle this and break the glue joint. And another thing, one more thing. Let me see, I think I have one in here. Just take a little bit of piece of towel, paper towel, and it will soak up that glue. There we go. I'm getting rid of that glue. I don't need any glue between the rails. Come on, soak down. Be nice.
Just add some more alcohol.
Yeah, that might do it too. I'm already committed to this way. The stropper doesn't reach all the way through anymore. This was a new bottle. That's helping. Okay. So pretty much at this point, I don't want to touch the ballast because it's really hard to manipulate now that it's wet. However, there's a few pieces here I want to just knock off the rail. Because I know I'm going to have to scrape that off later. And it's easier just to knock it down and then scrape it off the top of the tie. There's a big chunk. So whenever I do this part, I got to be real careful. And I might touch it a little bit, but very carefully because I don't want to disturb it too much. But I like how that transition, you know, from the different tracks, they'll just blend together. You can also see how this one, I spray painted this and the rails are painted. And on this one, there's a different technique, but it wasn't spray painted. I tried to just paint the side of the rail with a brush, and that's a lot harder. But you can, I might also just point out, right, where is it? Right there, there's one of my track feeders. You can barely see that. So on this plastic tie, I drilled a hole and just put a track feeder right there. But when I'm installing ties like this or rail on top of this, I try to solder to the bottom of the rail before I install it. Then that way it just goes down and you never see it at all. Okay.
Thanks, Jim. I,
You're welcome.
I was concerned about the throw bar.
Yep.
And
The biggest thing is at this point, if I were ready, I could put, oops, sorry, I could put a few drops of ballast down there, and I don't know if you could tell that it's the moisture is there, and so it would glue and it would stay. But you don't need to load that up like you do in this area. Is that focused? Sorry. So you don't need much, if any, in this area because the real thing didn't put very much. Now let me come down here. I was trying to see my other area. I didn't finish ballasting this area because I still had more track work to do. Oh, but over here I did. Can you see that one? So this one has a switch, has a machine there. And so you can, let's see if I find, where's that? There. So there's a little bit of ballast in there, but not a ton. You see that?
yes, thank you.
Okay. And that way it can still move freely. I guess I'm still on this camera too.
There. I think that's it that I have.